Hi, welcome back. My name is Aaliyah, and today joining me is my friend Lindsay. She worked at Holland America Line when I was interning. She was actually the project manager for one of the dry docks that I was assisting on for my summer internship project. And she really inspired me on how she looks at design, and she just started a family, so juggling being a new mom and her residential work as being an interior designer in Chicago and having her own side business that she was featured in Forbes. I just think she will really inspire you today. So please welcome, all the way in Chicago, Lindsay. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
So, can you just share a little bit about your background and how your design career up until this point?
Unlike other interior designers, I did not go to undergrad for design. At the time, I kind of thought, oh, I'll do that as a little hobby on the side. After having a few jobs after college, I took some time and I kind of just realized that this was what I wanted to do, and not just as a side hobby, like as my full-time job. So I made the difficult decision. I decided to go back and get my master's when, everybody else was kind of done with school, which was super, super hard. Lots of late nights. And it took about 3.5 years because I worked while I did it. And I went to Harrington College of Design in Chicago.
Okay.
While I was in school, I worked a little bit in residential. And then after I graduated, I worked in residential for quite a while. Somewhere in the middle there, I ended up moving to Seattle with my husband. I was looking for a job and I was presented with an opportunity to go and work in marine design, which is like cruise ship design.
Yeah.
I had never done anything like it before. It was super unique. So I decided to dive in and try it out. I ended up being there for 3 years, which I really, really liked. I became a mom, Corona happened, and now I'm back in Chicago and I'm starting my own firm. So working for myself, and that's kind of my story.
How has that been, your balance with, starting a family and having your own projects?
So I think my particular experience is a little unique. I became a mom in November, and then Corona happened. So everything is kind of not normal, So I have been trying to just make a balance or find that balance and make it work. It's definitely tricky. I would say I feel like either I'm being a great mom or I'm being a great designer. I think it's really hard to be 100% great at both. I think that's kind of where I'm struggling. So I'm just trying to cut myself some slack and just kind of accept that, you do the best you can and you're acting as a good role model, or I hope to be, for my daughter. So that's kind of where I'm at with the whole working mom thing.
Let's just start talking about your own residential firm. Just could you explain how you find your clients, find new projects for your firm?
So my firm is still pretty young. We're kind of just getting started, but it's been a lot of fun so far. I would say finding clients can be challenging. It can be a lot about who you know and getting connected with the right people. Unfortunately, with residential design, in order to do, those really glamorous rooms that you see on Instagram, it comes at a cost and a significant budget. And not everybody is in a position to spend that kind of money. And even if they are, they don't necessarily value it, which is totally, their prerogative. But finding clients is definitely tricky. It's also important to find clients that you click with, because a lot of residential design is so personal. So not only jiving on an aesthetic, but just kind of getting along day to day, how you communicate, personality. I think that goes a long way in creating a successful relationship with a client.
When it comes to residential design, if you could just share, is it your own personal style that you're just known for and that's what the clients want? Or are you supposed to go towards the client's aesthetic and their design?
So I think there's designers out there and everybody works a little bit differently. I would love to work my way for being a designer that is known for her aesthetic and people come to her who want that aesthetic. Right now, I am being a little bit more open-minded because I am, more so just kind of getting started. I would say though, I know the types of designs I can really execute well on. And there are other types of designs that really aren't my forte. And I could do it, but someone else could do it better. And I'm not afraid to admit that. If you're looking for a really traditional styles room, I'm probably not your girl. And that's okay. I'd rather send you to somebody who can really give you what you want rather than me try to be something that I'm not. So I think it's also a matter of not only finding the clients, but making sure the clients are right for you and not being afraid to walk away from an opportunity just because it's an opportunity.
How do you start your projects?
So at the beginning of any project, I think ideally it's super important to meet with a client in person. With Corona, it's really a matter of what the client feels comfortable with. I have a daughter, so it's just a matter of everybody feeling comfortable right now. But if you can meet in person and just kind of have those initial conversations, I let the client do a lot of the talking. What do they like? What have they seen that they like? How much do they, some clients come in and they're like, this is what I want. Whereas other clients come in and they're like, tell me what to do. So there's all different kinds of clients, and it's good to kind of gauge what type of client you're working with before you start talking. I do a lot of listening. And anybody who knows me, I talk a lot. So that's really important, to do a lot of listening. And then, we'll sit down, we'll have a conversation. Unfortunately, one of the first conversations I tend to have is budget, because budget can dictate a lot. If you're gonna do wallpaper, it's an added expense. And I like to set proper expectations. Like I said, you can't necessarily get the most glamorous room that you see on Instagram and not be willing to pony up a little bit. So of course there's levels of that. Like, you don't have to be crazy extreme, and I don't want to steer anybody away from hiring a residential designer. There's very reasonable ways to design spaces, but reasonable furniture is still expensive. I mean, it just is, and it adds up very, very quickly. So if you need 2 chairs and a sofa and a console table, it's just, it just adds up. So it's important to just set expectations up front. I'll get the measurements of the space and kind of spend some time in AutoCAD familiarizing myself, and then I'll make some mood boards for them to kind of look through and pick from and tell me, feeling this, not feeling that. And that gives me a direction to kind of run with. From there, I develop space plans, elevations, I start pulling specs, and we start picking things. And that process can take some time, because it really just depends on, some clients are like, yes, love it, done. Others are kind of want to see everything that's out there, and they still come back to that first one. So it can be super time consuming. My favorite part is when everything is spec'd and then you get to do the install. You place the orders and then you get to install and kind of see it all come to life.
So what have you noticed from working in the corporate setting at like marine industry to now residential? What have helped you in your residential career?
So it's interesting, because I would say I haven't had a traditional corporate work environment experience. I did work for a huge corporation with hundreds, maybe thousands of people. But the way my team operated, it felt very intimate. And I had a very strong relationship with my boss, and the people that I needed to make certain decisions I had access to. So it felt a lot more like a small firm in that respect. I think that's probably why I lasted there as long as I did. I will say to anybody out there, if you do, want to work for somebody, or rather need to work for somebody, I really encourage you to just find a boss who just will support you and really invest in you. I had a boss who just allowed me the opportunity to design, to make certain decisions. She challenged me, and she helped me grow. And I think that all of that is what has put me in a strong position to be starting my own firm today.
Absolutely. So what advice could you give anyone wanting to start their own residential firm?
Take it slow. I would say make sure you get experience working for somebody first. It may not be glamorous. It may not be what you want to do. You may be putting memos away in a library. You may be, printing stuff or taking measurements, all the stuff that's not fun. But it's all super important to the job, and it teaches you different elements of the job, things that you don't learn in traditional design school. So I would say, give yourself some time to have those experiences. You're going to learn so much from somebody else. And then you'll be able to tell when it's time, when you're ready, and be kind to yourself. Because I think that when you start any company, any endeavor, there's going to be bumps along the way and imperfections. I'm a major perfectionist, but you have to just kind of be okay with good is good enough for right now and know that you're working towards something amazing. Just be kind to yourself.
Yeah, that's great advice. So I want to talk about Objects Within. Can you just explain what it is, how you came up with this side business of yours that was very successful? I mean, I love your diffuser.
So Objects Within is a home decor line that focuses on wellness and surrounding yourself with things that make you feel good. The idea is to kind of take some of the tackiness out of everyday home decor items and make them chic and cool and beautiful. The company's still very much in its infancy, but the initial reaction has been really positive, and I'm just kind of excited to see where it goes.
So what was the idea behind starting a diffuser as your first product?
I have been really into essential oils for a while. I love candles. I love how candles look, but they're not really that good for you. So I got really into essential oils, but the diffusers that were available to me were tacky, for lack of a better word. And so I hunted and I searched, and finally my husband said to me after like a couple of years, he's like, stop talking about this. Why don't you just make your own? So I did.
How do you balance interior design and the Objects Within company?
That is tricky. That is very, very tricky. I would say I don't do a very good job. At certain times, things are more pressing than others, so they have to take priority. What I try to do is set like, okay, I'm going to spend 5 hours on this today, and then the rest, the other 5 hours I'm going to spend on the other one. It just doesn't always work out that way. And then, of course, I'm at home with limited childcare, and there's a screaming child. So I just kind of take it as it comes. It's a lot of late nights. It's a lot of just letting things go and not demanding perfection. I think if I demanded perfection in like the website and every single element, which is my personality, nothing would ever get done because I don't have that time. Instead, it's kind of putting your best foot forward and just watching it grow and evolve and learning from your mistakes and fixing things as you go. I don't know that that's the best approach, but that's been the approach that I've taken. I think if I waited for perfect, it would never be perfect. Nothing's ever perfect, at least to my standards. So in this way, I'm always kind of chasing that perfection. And I think that's okay.
Can you share a little bit about how you network?
Yeah, absolutely. So networking is a little tricky during these shutdown Corona days. So interestingly, I would say I have like a love-hate relationship with Instagram, but Instagram is such a powerful tool, especially in this industry. You have such a unique opportunity to connect with fellow designers, furniture manufacturers, rug designers, contractors, you name it. And I think it's really cool to just kind of naturally almost befriend people. It seems so weird that you become friends with somebody through social media, but it kind of happens. And you'd be surprised how many designers are willing to share sources or to give a tip on how they made their fluted wall or whatever it is, something that you haven't done yet. So I would say that is like a really powerful community. And I've found that it's a really supportive community as well. Designers want to support other designers. I think, or I want to believe that the days of like hiding sources and that competitive nature it's always going to be there, but I think it's less so. I think that you root for your peers and you want to support people and help them find their success and be, for people that are coming into the industry, help them to build their platform and kind of get their name out there.
What do you wish the design school taught you that you know now?
So I think design school has its work cut out for it because there's so much to learn in a very short period of time. So I don't necessarily blame my program for not teaching me everything. I do think that design school teaches you a lot of theory. It teaches you a lot of, how things are, supposed to be, or, the fairy tale land of it all. And then you get to reality. And in reality, there are budgets and timelines, deadlines, and there's contractors that don't get back to you, and angry clients, and a million other things. I think that just being prepared for those elements of it is something I wish that they could find a way to educate you on in school. At the same time, that's also why I say working for someone is super important, because you start to get a feel for how to communicate with people, what to communicate with people, when. Sometimes less information is better. Like if people are getting anxious that something isn't getting done. So it's just, a lot of that type of experience. But the number one thing I would say, especially in residential, is learning to work with a budget. Because in real life, even the wealthiest of clients have budgets. It's limiting. It can be super limiting. And being educated and aware of all the different sources that you can pull from to create something amazing that is within reason is a skill set in itself. And that's a big part of being a designer. Being a designer isn't always picking and choosing your most favorite things. I mean, it's making the client happy on a number of different levels. So I think that that's a big piece of it that is often overlooked in design school. At the same time, I'm not really sure how they're supposed to teach that, but definitely something that hits you hard in the real world.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a
Thanks for
great
having me.
chat.